All right, we'll go 3, 2, 1. What's going on, you world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36, your favorite fullback. And one of the great things I get to do with my alma mater at Florida State is I get to talk to people behind the scenes. I get to go to practices and check out things differently than everybody else. And I get to ask questions that are different than the average fan or average media guy. I grew up a Florida State fan, then I played it, and then depending on who you ask, I guess I'm in the media at Florida State right now. But guy that I grew up and I never thought that I would ever see him stop. It's kind of one of those things when you get, as the older you get, there's a few things that you never expect. You don't think people are going to ever retire or die. Now, luckily, not luckily. Unfortunately, we saw the passing of Coach Bowden a year ago. And I was sad because I never thought he was going to ever pass. I thought he was just going to live forever. And then we saw the retirement of the legend, Gene Deckerhoff. And I don't know why. I had something in my head that Gene was going to make calls for my son if he got a chance to score a touchdown or do something. But one of the toughest things to ever do is to replace a legend. But I've actually been pleasantly surprised, and it keeps getting better. Seeing Jeff Culhane, he's one of those guys who, just like Gene, he actually sounds the same exact way when you're talking to him. There's so many radio guys that I know kind of tweak and change their voice, but like talking to Jeff is like listening to him say games. So I appreciate you coming on, Jeff, and giving me a little bit of your time.
Anytime, Big Game James. And man, what a first couple of games for the Noles. And you're right, it is impossible to replace a legend. What's the line from the movie The Sandlot? Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about with those two names that you mentioned with Bobby Bowden and Gene Deckerhoff. And Gino's been great to me. I'm sure we'll talk about that quite a bit. But what a blast it's been to be a part of the Nole family. And you guys have all, invited my family and I in and made me feel right at home. And hopefully it sounded like we've been family for a long time over the first two games.
Yes, man, it's been good. You got indoctrinated. One of the things that Florida State has had is a history, probably crazy. I joke about Coach Norvell wondering why the hell do people like this guy James Coleman so much? Who the hell do they even have fullbacks anymore? We've got a long storied history of having really, really good fullbacks and ones that can find the end zone. So we're going to kind of bounce around. I want to go to the past too to figure out how you got here. But I got to know, what was it like calling the DJ Lundy touchdown against LSU? Because I was excited. I was like, oh, my God, they gave the ball to the goddamn fullback. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I know you were excited. My guy, bar none, was really excited.
The greatest fullback in Florida State history.
He was all sorts of revved up. I believe his line was, "It's on and popping in New Orleans right now," is what bar none said. I've got love for the fullback from my previous stop at North Dakota State.
Okay.
Because they run two tight ends they give the ball to the fullback on and on and on and on. And so I come from an offense where the fullback is utilized a ton with that offense. And so it was awesome. It was great to see. And you want to talk about, old school football feel where you bring the Mike linebacker to the other side of the ball in a goal line situation and you hand it to him. He's not just a decoy or a number out there. Mike Norvell hands DJ Lundy the football. And, DJ was a guy in high school that knew what to do with the ball when it was in his hands. And he was an amazing wrestler as well, state champion during his time in Ocilla, Georgia. And so that was awesome. That was pretty special to see that. You always get a little more excited when the big boys get the ball.
Without a doubt. And I remember when I saw it in the Thursday practice over in Jacksonville, and Coach Norvell pointed at me. He said, who coaches the fullback up? He's like, I do. I was like, so that means it's attention to detail. So I love it. You kind of led me into what my next question was, is can you explain the stops that you've taken and how did you get into a career where you become a play-by-play announcer?
Yeah, I've been blessed, James, to be at some amazing places where, the goal and the dream for me has always been to be at stops where essentially in a simple form, it matters, right? It matters to the masses. It matters to the fans. even the little things. Hey, we won, but we didn't do this right. Or, even those little conversation pieces on Monday mornings or Sunday mornings are the places I want to be at, because that lets you know that everyone cares. And when they wake up in the morning, they eat, drink, breathe, bleed, sweat, along with, everybody around the program close to it. And so, I've been blessed to be at places like Lincoln, Nebraska, and Morgantown, West Virginia, and then the past 6 years prior to this season in Fargo, North Dakota. Insert your weather jokes here right now if you would like. But to be at places where there has been high levels of success, national championships. I've been fortunate enough to call big games, called 4 national championship games at NDSU when I was there. And, my goal has always been, my dream has always been to be a play-by-play guy at a big boy blue blood program where you have history, tradition, pageantry, and expectations. And Florida State University is that place. And so, and obviously football is massive, but it's not just football. I think the world of Leonard Hamilton and Stan Jones and their staff and what he's done with Florida State men's basketball. I think the women's sports and the Olympic sports here are fantastic. Florida State baseball is just tremendous as well. And so, my role is a little bit different than your normal, typical, everyday play-by-play guy. I've got some other things going on, but that kind of gives you a background into where I've been and my dreams and where I wanted to go.
What was it? What's the difference between Fargo, North Dakota, and Tallahassee, Florida? Outside of, obviously, I just think I can't imagine. It snows. It has to snow year round. I don't know. Like, I can't think of anything. And I don't really remember the movie Fargo, but that's the only time when I hear it, it just brings me to the movie. But what's Fargo, North Dakota like? And is it warmer in Tallahassee, Florida than it is in Fargo?
James, I don't have all the answers, but I can with 100% certainty tell you that from October 1st through April 30th, it will never be warmer in Fargo, North Dakota than Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay.
I can promise you that. I will tell you what's similar, and that's the people.
Okay.
The people here have been unbelievable. And as I talked about before, so welcoming, so amazing, and awesome to connect with. I know you're very active on social media. Awesome to connect with Knowles fans everywhere over the last month plus or so, and the reaction to our broadcast in New Orleans has been very fun to see folks hear some of our stuff and react the way they have. It makes you feel like you did the moment justice and the many moments justice in that game against LSU. But Fargo is a community of great people and hardworking people, blue collared, and they share a love, much like people in Tallahassee do, for their school. And there are a lot of similarities, even though the two are separated by 23 hours of driving time from one end of this country to the other. There still are a lot of similarities between the two. Weather not being one of them, James, but I'll be looking forward to coming home after a late night road trip in basketball season in February and not having to worry about if my driveway's been plowed in with snow or not, and I can't get through at 2-3 in the morning. That will be a welcome sight when we get back home after a long trip.
Are there moose up there? Is that because I know you probably haven't got a chance to see the deer yet. See, our deer in Florida are extremely disrespectful. Like, they don't fear anything. But I'm just assuming, again, this is most people are arrogant in their ignorance. I love mine because I get to learn about stuff, because I'm going to ask an ignorant question with the hope that I'm going to be corrected so I can now know more than the next person in useless knowledge. But just be prepared, because the deer will go across the street or highways and will look at you like you don't have a powerful vehicle that can kind of end their lives.
Hey, like you're the road team, right?
Right. Exactly. They'll definitely look at you like you're the visitor.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring that up. When I was in West Virginia, we were driving to a baseball game across the state, And West Virginia is known for its beauty and certainly known for its wildlife. That's why the state motto is wild and wonderful. Might have connected with the deer on the way down with my vehicle, making my way to call a baseball game 7-8 years ago. But the wildlife in North Dakota, obviously there's some similarities. You mentioned deer, a lot of differences as well with the swamp life you have right in this part of the country. You're not gonna get those kinds of creatures way up north there, but deer, you might get a moose if you're out and about in the northern part of North Dakota or Minnesota. I can't say I saw a moose or anything in Fargo, so lucky enough to not have to interact or try and navigate around one of those big boys at that point in time.
We talked about who you came in and replaced, the legendary Gene Deckerhoff, probably one of 5 Florida Gators that I actually like. And but I don't put that against him. The time when he went to college, Florida State was still just coming off of being a girls' school, not too long ago. But what has it been like with Gene and him passing the mantle to you?
Yeah, it's been a dream come true, but it's also a dream that brings expectations with it. And you have to you have to honor the legend in the right way, because that's what he deserves, because that's the work he's put in, that's the longevity he's put in. 48 years calling men's hoops, 43 years calling football. As we talk right now, he's getting ready to call I want to say his 34th season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight, or 35th, somewhere in there. And so national championships, Super Bowls, and James, you know this, and everyone knows this. I'm not bringing anything new to the table here, but as great of a broadcaster as he is, his heart and his character are even on another level. I mean, if he's in the Hall of Fame of broadcasters, the guy's a saint already as far as people are concerned. And so he's been unbelievable to me. You saw both of us together, I think, at the first fall scrimmage at the indoor back in early August. We've gone to a couple practices together. We have texted back and forth. He texted me before my first coach's show with Mike Norvell. He came to the second coach's show with his son, Dennis. And he and his wife, Ann, when we were, as you look, this house I'm in right now has nothing on the walls behind me. We're still getting ingrained and moved in and settled in here in our home. And, he and his wife, Ann, who was a saint herself, they brought over a folding table, card table, folding chairs, and a rocker to our home for my wife, Sarah, to be able to rock our 2-month-old son to sleep. And so that goes to show you the relationship that's been developed and how welcoming he has been, because it's not like that everywhere. I mean, our business is one that can be at times uber competitive, and it can be filled with insecurities and ego. And man, just not the case in any way, shape, or form with Gene Deckerhoff. He has been such an amazing person that's helped us get ingrained here. And he was listening on Sunday night. He was I believe they were either I think they were in Tallahassee. I forget what he texted me, but he listened to the whole broadcast Sunday night. He was texting our crew, and he shot me a very, very kind text after the game that meant a lot to me. And so he's been the best, and it's a dream to be able to do my best to carry on his excellence in my own way. And with that, I realize those are high expectations, and that's why I work the way I do to get ready for each broadcast week in and week out.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Gene did something that just during my career, when I was playing at Florida State, you don't fathom it, because I know I would watch the book games and be like, oh, that sounds like the guy does Florida State. But then when you're playing, you're like, oh, wow, we get in. Most of our games are national TV. So we're flying in back home, and maybe we may get there at 2:00 in the morning. He does the Bobby Bowden post-game show immediately, which you got to go on YouTube and find this stuff. It's the greatest hilarity because Bobby used to forget our names, and I even applaud Gene because Gene's long in the tooth too, even though he looks great. But to remember, I told people like you gotta understand how many black number 36s Bobby Bowden has seen over his career. I mean, I don't get offended. I mean, I was blessed to have him actually know who I was. But even for Gene to come in, I've never seen Gene interact with a player whose name he did not recognize. And I didn't have hair in college, so I have no idea how he even knows who I am. But to be able to do that and then be able to get to wherever he needed to get to, to be able to be there on time, because Tampa's a hop. So I mean, it's not the closest place, and maybe they, I'm sure they got them a private jet or whatever, some things, but that's a lot of energy to be able to exhaust for that amount of, and then to always be on point. So that's a lot to follow. So how have you been doing with the names? Because we've got some guys with some names, man.
Yeah.
That are a little bit. I don't even try. Like I call the kid with the Old Testament name, the corner, the number 20,
Azaria Thomas.
Yes, I mean, right there, boom. I already see why I can't do this job because you're already there. And Ayo, that's all I'm going to call him. He hasn't made a play yet, but Ayo is great for me. The young D tackle, I think, from the Maryland area. So, how tough has that been? And how do you have a drill? Do you have warm ups to be able to get the proper phonetics?
Yeah, still continuing to learn. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I have every single detail of every single, person or player locked in, and continuing to go through and learn more and more about these guys and about, who they are and what they do and where they're from. That's part of the joy for me, is that process, is the constant learning and, interaction and developing that relationship with those people, those young men and women, when you're around them, calling whatever sport you're calling. And so, no, it's just a process of, I think you're constantly doing it. A lot of people have asked me specifically before the first game against Duquesne, are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you worried? And, quite honestly, because of the opportunity to be able to be at practice that I've been able to have, I've been calling Florida State football in my brain for the last, 6 weeks or so since camp started. I mean, something I just do. Like if I'm watching a play in my mind, I'm going through how I would call it if we were live on the air, what the pre-snap trade shift and motions, the movement before the ball is snapped, where are players and people, names positioned. And so, but to answer your question about, pronunciations, Derek Satterfield and his crew do such an amazing job with game notes. And if I have a question on anything, we ask right away, and they give me the info I need right away. But it's important, to have all of that locked in and be able to have those pronouncers correct. That's a big part of what we do, no question.
Okay. And lastly, when you're up in that box, like, do you have binoculars or do you have a spotter? Like, because again, it's got to be crazy to be able to like keep up, especially when you're going up against up tempo offenses or really changing pace, big plays and things like that. How is that, and how intense can it get? Like an LSU game in those last 5 minutes. So I guess it's a double question. How do you kind of keep up with the pace, and then how do you keep yourself to where obviously you're going to be excited because you gotta. Anybody who says they're not biased is a lie.
Yeah, we are.
You got to be biased. but how do you keep it kind of to where it's still
right?
You're not going to mess up.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, somebody, I shouldn't say somebody, before my first college football game, I called Greg Sharp, who was the play-by-play voice at Nebraska, sent me a text right away in the morning. And all it read was pace, poise, time, and score. And there's a pacing to how you want to call a game, to where you can also be excited, but also there's the understanding of the action that's going on. The poise as well that goes into that. Yes, you want to have energy. Yes, you want to illustrate to people listening, if a big play happened, the level of what that play meant for the tenor of the game or the action itself completed by the player involved. You want to let people know how impressive that was. But yeah, in the booth, I've got a pair of binoculars. If we start to get maybe a little further away from the action, I've got a great team, man. The crew that we have is the same crew that Gene worked with for, a number of decades, with bar none. Tom Block, who's just an amazing broadcaster and a pro. Andy Surratt is my spotter. He's been with Gene since the early to mid 1980s and seen all the big games and all the great players and moments. And he's still with us and does an amazing job. And then we have a great engineer by the name of Chris Culp, where I don't have to worry about any of the equipment, thank God, because if I did, we'd have some serious issues trying to get on the air. He's a genius and a pro with all of those things. And so we have a great crew and a great team, and they welcome me in like family, James, like so many have. And it's allowed me to be myself and call games the way I feel like we need to get them called.
Yeah. Tom, again, growing up in Tallahassee, Tom Block going all the way. I think he was with ABC. Was it 27? I think, anyways, before he came to Florida State. I remember watching him doing that stuff. And that's one of the greatest things about the university. And I tell people, like, why I love going back, because there's so many people who were there before I got there and are still there. So, like, you just don't retire. It's a family thing, man. And you kind of get and again, it becomes sad because eventually they got to move on, but at the same time, you expect them to be there forever. But are you covering basketball as well, or is it just?
Yes, I'll be calling men's basketball. Looking forward to that. I think, Leonard Hamilton, after a year where they were just ravaged by injuries. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan from afar of Leonard Hamilton and Florida State basketball. I think they are a program that deserves more attention nationally as well. And so, yes, men's basketball will be something I'm looking forward to. First game, November 7th at the Tucker Center versus Stetson on a Monday night.
Adrian Crawford going to still do the stuff?
Yes.
Yes,
he's going to be with me, and he's the man. We've talked a couple of times, and very passionate about Seminole basketball, and I can't wait to get to know him and work with him as well, because I love football. Everybody does, but man, there's something about hoops when you get deep into a season and you're having a great run and you're getting close to March Madness and the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, James. It is a special time of year, man.
He is the biggest Leonard Hamilton apologist. I didn't like him at first. I respected him. When he's been the same. I think he's a vampire. He's looked the exact same, like, for almost his entire life. Leonard Hamilton doesn't change, doesn't smile, nothing. It's crazy. I don't think he ages. But when they made that run to the Elite Eight, they got beat by Michigan, which I thought we had a chance to go to the Final Four. I had to call Adrian and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. Everything has been worth it. Like, I can see the vision. Phenomenal coach, a better man. And I think that's kind of one of the blessings that Florida State has had. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. I know we got to wrap up, but your experiences with Mike Norvell. Every time I get somebody on, I have to let them know, because it proves one thing. I have a theory. He's the most consistent person on Florida State's campus. So I'm gonna let you say it, and then I'm like, okay, well, everybody. I'm gonna see if it's like on par with what everybody has said about Coach Norvell.
I think Mike Norvell is one of the smartest people I've been around. I mean, I think he's a high IQ football mind, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's a very smart individual, period. And you can see what he is attempting, and he's doing it right now in year 3, building the culture back and the family atmosphere back to where it was when you were playing and when we had the great years under Bobby Bowden. And, Jimbo had the national championship team in 2013. And so he's building this family atmosphere and this culture from within, James, that you have to have, I feel like, if you want to win big at this level. The players, young people know when you're not being real with them. And I feel like Mike Norvell has these guys bought into what he's preaching, into his message. And I think you're seeing that here early in the season. Next step for this group is, yes, you celebrate the win over LSU. Now you got to take that with you, learn, move on, and get ready for a huge game on Friday night at Louisville, a program and a place where I know we've had some struggles and some lack of success in years past.
Yeah, I hate that stadium. Played there in '02. Played there in '02. And pouring down rain. It's the only time I've ever seen it rain because we got there like on a Tuesday, and then we left on like right after the game that Friday night. It poured down raining the entire time. It did not stop, and it was cold. So it was the worst type of conditions to be in. And they played the song by Archie, "We Ready." When I hear it, like it's one of those things. It triggers me. I'll unplug the entire TV or turn off the radio if somebody plays it around me to this day. But Mike has the most energy I have been around Mike first thing in the morning, middle of the afternoon, late at night, and he always has the same amount of energy.
Got juice, man. He's got juice.
I'm like, God, man. But he's a very genuine guy. My sons absolutely think the world of him and Coach Fuller. I always tell former players, and this is my top for my teammates and people who before me listen. He says he has an open door policy, and I promise you, that door, if he's in there, the door is open. And go around, bring your family members around. What Derek's doing is a good job with in Sports Info. What Jeff Cup is trying to do to try to get former players back. What he does with the victory walk on the night before a game is great. So man, I appreciate you chopping it up with me for a little bit. Look forward to seeing you again when I get over to Doak. Hopefully, we'll be there. I'll be there September 24th against Boston College. Hopefully, it's a night game. Hopefully, they beat Louisville, and we continue to get back on prime time. They like the numbers, but really like what you're doing, man. It's obviously change is always difficult, but man, this transition has been great, and it's also great when you get a chance to call some exciting plays, and we're on the right side of it. So continue doing what you're doing, man, and as always, go Noles.
Big game, James. Appreciate you, and you're one of the guys when I talk about how people have been so great and welcoming. You're one of those people as well. So I appreciate you and how you've welcomed me in when I've been able to see you and talk to you. And anytime you need me, let me know. Go Noles.
Also, try to get some rest, man. I know you got 2-month-old. God, them things are difficult, man. To move cross country and have a newborn. Oh God, bless your wife,
crazy.
Man.
We're a little crazy over here. Bless my Sarah Culhane. She is the rock and the rock star at the same time.
We gotta get you some good Southern food, man. When I get home, I got a couple days, man. I'm gonna take you to a couple places that you need to go eat that aren't known in the city. But Tallahassee's, that's my place. Get you some sweet potatoes and some black eyed peas and some rice, some good fried chicken.
Let's
get
go.
all that stuff, man. And
let's go.
Again, appreciate you, man, and thanks for everything.